Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to recognize a family and a family man that has brought so much prosperity, so much love, and so much dedication to his craft that has helped not only our community, but the community of Whitetail. For over 80 years, the Freemans and their business, Clinton Sons, have been the cornerstone of Whitetail. Since the early 1940s, 5 generations of farmers and cattlemen have tirelessly carried the beef industry and their tradition of excellence out the door for families around the area. Today, the family includes in the operations Johnny, Joe, Justin, Hattie, and Gage Freeman, along with their exceptional staff and introduce them.
Before we bring up the farm, babe.
The Freeman's commitment to giving back is unparalleled. During their Snack Pack for Kids program, they made 10,000 sticks of jerky for hungry high school students a day. 10,000. Talk about giving back and being selfless with the kids that was brought to them. To me, that just makes me proud of the people in West Texas. Not only have they done that, but they've been longtime partners at the High Plains Food Bank. They give numerous blood drives in the community, and they support a lot of the community programs. From school tours to teaching young students about the cattle industry and how to properly raise and take care of their food, to helping raise a ton of funds for agricultural families in need. Clinton Sons is even a favorite stop for motorcycle poker games because of their famous beef jerky. If you haven't had it, you've got to try it. Beyond their business, the Freemans also raise cattle, they farm, and they embody the true sense of the cowboy spirit in West Texas. It is with great pride that we award Justin Freeman and the Freeman family the Farmer and Rancher of the Year. Everyone stand up and clap to the Freemans. I am proud of y'all for you.
I can't start to thank Joey and their bunch for picking us out of so many people today. And I just want everybody to know there's not a day goes by that we don't start in prayer, thanking the Lord above that where we get to live and that we get to work with family each and every day. We're truly blessed and try to be humble in that. And yes, sir, thank you enough. I just want to say thanks.
And we congratulate you folks on an honor well deserved. All right, now let's get to our keynote speaker. Michelle Miller, who is better known as the Farm Babe, is an internationally recognized speaker, published writer, podcaster, and an online influencer as a full-time advocate for agriculture. She started her social media outreach about 9 years ago as a way to better bridge the gap between farmers and consumers. And in doing so, she's made a name for herself as a dedicated myth buster in food farming. The Farm Babe has hundreds of thousands of followers and an average social media reach of 5 million plus annually. She's been featured in Forbes. She's also caught the attention of the Today Show, CNN, People, and many others. Michelle has proudly spoken alongside some of the biggest names in food farming, and we're proud to welcome her to the program today. But before we bring her up, you'll draw your attention to the video screen. Let's play this short video clip for you.
Video. They're gonna fix it. fixing the sound. Oh my god. This one. Tested it. Sound check. Okay. Is it muted on your laptop? I've got 3 videos in this presentation. If this finishes and you go up, I will go work on the other videos. And the clicker's up there, right? Ah, there we go. Do you want me to start over?
Part of my reason for standing up here today is to inspire you all to realize that your voice is matter. Even if you're not crazy involved on the farm every day, collectively and collaboratively, we can move mountains within agriculture. And so the story tonight about advocating for agriculture is really how do we better communicate what it is we do on our farms every day and really kind of bridge the gap between consumers and farmers. Can your voice make a difference? Does your voice matter? If you advocate for agriculture, can you make a difference? And I learned very quickly that yes, you can. We've got to think about telling the real story of agriculture and helping kind of become business because so many people are so far removed to where their food comes from that it's up to us to really kind of tell that story and get people excited about it because there's never been another time for people to learn about where their food comes from. Well, what do you mean organic means pesticides? What do you mean there's no such thing as animals in poultry? All meat is antibiotic-free, GMOs aren't bad. At what point are we watering down the food labels to the point where people aren't going to trust anything anymore? Have that connection that you're a person first. Who cares about that? You can help people laugh, cry, find that common ground, those shared values. You're a mom, you're a mom, right? Really just being yourself. If you're not talking about what you're doing on the farm every day, who will? It's up to us to be that amazingly strong voice of agriculture. Telling that story, collectively we can move mountains and communicate the story of agriculture to the general public. We all have our challenges. There's a lot of things that we can't control. However, there is one thing that is an amazing story to tell that we can control. We can control the perception. For those of you who work in acres, not hours, we thank you. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Amarillo Ag Appreciation Luncheon.
Farm Babe. Here's Michelle Miller.
No.
We're just going to wait for some of the technical difficulties.
Microphones are dead too, I think. You want a handheld?
She says use the hand. Hand her one of those back.
This one barely is.
Okay. Is it time to applaud yet? You know, it's so funny. Sometimes I swear people say, do you ever get nervous speaking in front of a crowd? And I say, no, not at all. But when it comes to technology, absolutely. So thank you for bearing with us with those technical difficulties. Anyway, my name is Michelle Miller, known as the Farm Babe, and do we have the presentation up here?
Yes, that's just the
There you go.
All right, great. So, cultivating connections among farmers and consumers, the power of influences. How do we better bridge this gap and really help people realize and learn more about agriculture and where their food comes from? So the power of influences. Sometimes you guys as farmers and ranchers have way more power than you know. But before I jump into the potatoes of it all, Let's start with a scenario, okay? I'd like to take you down the aisle of a very confusing place, the grocery aisle. There we go. The grocery aisle, where you might like to go to relax. Now, there are so many different food labels out there with 99% of people that are not farmers and ranchers walking down these grocery aisles saying, I wonder what to buy. What do all of these labels mean? There's so much confusion behind that. So let's just say, for example, you are the average consumer that's standing in the egg aisle, and you're looking around at all of the different choices from the bottom shelf all the way up to the top shelf. Now, for argument's sake, let's just say that the eggs on the bottom shelf are $2 all the way up to the top shelf, which could be, let's say, $7. By a show of thumbs, how many of you believe that it is worth it to pay more for the top shelf eggs? How many of you believe it is not worth it to pay more for the most expensive eggs? And how many of you are indifferent or not really sure? Show of thumbs, what do we have? All right. Now, here's what's interesting, is we have an audience full of people that do this every day. And we get it, right? We say any farmer can do a great job regardless of size or label, but the average consumer might not know that. So it's up for us to communicate what we do, which ultimately improves perception and policy. But a lot of times people like to know a little bit about my background, so I'd like to open up and share that with you a little bit here. That I actually grew up in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And I didn't grow up on a farm, but my friends were farm kids. So every day after school, we would ride horses and do chores, and I always really loved the farm life. So we would do all these chores and involved in 4-H, and high school comes around, and you decide, what am I going to major in? What should I go to school for? And all of your teachers, aptitude tests, and all these tests you do in high school, my teachers and guidance counselors, they all said, you should work in agriculture. You should be a veterinarian. You should work with livestock in some capacity. So when I was putting this presentation together, I called my mom and I said, do you have any pictures of me from when I was a kid on the farm? And she found probably the most embarrassing photo that we've ever seen. This was circa 1994, I believe, when I was in Girl Scouts and we all dressed up as cows for the Thanksgiving Day parade. Now I know what you're thinking. Move over, Macy's. The real Thanksgiving Day parade is in town, right? So that was a little bit about my background. But you're going through life, you said, I don't want to live in Wisconsin anymore. I think I want to go to college in Los Angeles. I want to see what the big city life is like. So I gave up my Wisconsin roots, moved to Los Angeles, got a degree in fashion, and worked for Gucci on Rodeo Drive. Because that's what farm kids do, right? So then you go through this time living in downtown LA and Chicago, and you become victim to a lot of misinformation. So now I'm going full circle from the farm to the big city and back, and now say that I've gone from rodeo to the rodeo. And that food fears have turned into food favorites. But when I talk about food fears, what is it exactly that I mean? Well, for a lot of people, they're exposed to films like this. How many of you have seen Food Inc.? And how many of you want to bang your head against the wall when you watch Food Inc.? Unfortunately, there's not a lot of truth in that film, and it was broadcast all over the place. It was in schools, it was shown everywhere. It had a very large budget, but it does not speak the truth about agriculture. But that film made my cousin become a vegetarian. It turned me into an anti-GMO activist. It was very influential for people to be scared of their food and what that looks like coming from big ag or so-called factory farming. So kind of debunking all of these myths. So people are exposed to all of this misinformation, including myself. Here I was living in downtown LA, in downtown Chicago, only buying organic, non-GMO, gluten-free, and every food label under the sun, based purely on misinformation. So once again, I decided to move from LA and Chicago. I said, I want to travel the world and live in Florida, right? So once again, I said, I'm going to move to Florida, became a bartender on the beach, and traveled the world with this little white sand tiki bar, and traveling everywhere. And then throughout my time as a bartender, One day at the bar, in walked in a tall, handsome, corn-fed Iowa farm boy. And Doug and I ended up dating for about 8 years. So, wouldn't you know, take a guess, I moved again, this time to Iowa. So all this happened through my 20s, total big city girl. Right around 10 years ago, I moved to Iowa and became a farmer. So Doug and I were raising cattle and sheep, and hold your applause, you guys are not going to believe this, we grew corn in Iowa. I know, shocker, right? Corn, soybeans, and I became a farmer with him. And it was about that time when I realized, wow, I'm really wrong. I'm really wrong about farming and agriculture, where food comes from. So took it upon myself to really start this social media page. So about 10 years ago now, I started a Facebook blog called The Farm Babe. Didn't think much of it, right? And the reason I share my background and story with you is to help you realize the power of your own voice. That collectively and collaboratively, when each one of us speaks up for our way of life, our way of life, we really can make a difference. I had no idea starting a Facebook page would turn into being seen by 5 million people per month, over and over having this influence. So we're going to dive into this a little bit deeper, but remember that when you're wondering, can my voice matter? The answer is yes, it can. And also ways to diversify your farm or your ranch. So started a Facebook page, which grew from there, and now work as a social media influencer, podcaster, author, doing events, and now I live in Florida again on a timber farm. So went through a breakup, and now I'm back near Gainesville, Florida, on a timber farm. So now I'm learning about forestry. So a little bit about that. So when you're considering, how to better advocate for agriculture, you might be wondering what sort of name you should have. You should have some type of memorable name. And when I started my page, Farm Babe, people say, how did you come up with that name? And there's a funny story behind that too. Who in here has ever heard of the food babe before? So everybody that heard of the food babe, yes. Well, if you haven't, you're not missing out on much, because she's definitely one of the biggest sources of misinformation out there. So the food babe was out there saying, oh, these GMOs, they're just drenched in toxic chemicals. To which I responded on our Facebook page, we grow GMOs on our farm, and we're not drenching our fields with pesticides. I said, come on out, I'd love to show you and share with you what we're doing on the farm. But instead of engaging with me, she blocked and banned me within about 5 seconds of posting. Then I found a Facebook group called Banned by the Food Babe, which boasts 10,000 members. So I thought, wow, if the food babe isn't going to let farmers talk about farming, I'm going to be the farm babe. And that's how it all started. And it all kind of started off as a joke. As a joke to kind of crack some jokes. Have some fun with it and tell the story of farming. Jokes around sometimes some dieting trends, myth busting. And since this is a group of wheat growers, it was only fitting to do a scary image about gluten, You guys, especially in wheat, there's so many myths out there that you can help dispel as the professionals. People love farmers. They trust farmers, but they just don't always trust farming. Or what does that mean? So we have these different myths about gluten. How do we better speak up for that? And that's what we're going to talk about today. Gluten. When it comes to the dieting trend, actor Ryan Reynolds says it best. People in LA are definitely afraid of gluten. I swear to God, you could rob a liquor store in this city with a bagel. Now, these myths, right? People thinking, oh, this GMO gluten, what is it? There really isn't any commercially available GMO wheat around here in the United States. But these myths sometimes just don't die. And fear really sells. Kind of like we were talking about the food babe. The misinformation that runs rampant online is usually for people to sell a product or an ideology. So, obviously not meant to poke fun of somebody that has a legitimate medical reason to avoid gluten, right? Like somebody that has celiac disease. But as far as myth busting, we really can have a big impact. So, this fear sells of people having this chemophobia, saying, well, if you can't pronounce it, you shouldn't eat it. But the reality is that everything we come in contact with all day, every day, is made of chemicals. And chemicals is not necessarily a scary or bad thing as long as we understand science and the dose makes the poison. Also, let's take an apple, for example. An apple is very good for you. It's nutritious. But if you break down the chemical components of an apple, what is actually making of an apple, you see there's a lot of chemicals in there that we really can't pronounce. Does that mean that an apple is bad? Of course not. We should all be eating more fresh produce and a healthy, balanced diet. Also, we can take advantage of people by explaining or making something sound scary when they don't really know what it is. For example, if dihydrogen monoxide can rust these pipes, just imagine what it's doing to your insides. The government has dihydrogen monoxide hidden in your food. Your kids are exposed to dihydrogen monoxide all day. You know, the government doesn't want you to know. What is dihydrogen monoxide? It's water. It's dihydrogen monoxide. It's H2O, dihydrogen monoxide. So there, you can make things sound really scary, which is why we have to advocate and share the facts about our food and how we can better improve that. So for a second here now, since this is the Egg Appreciation Luncheon, first of all, thank you guys so much for all that you do as farmers and ranchers. But we're going to go ahead and try a little exercise here, okay? I'd like y'all to just close your eyes for a moment and just imagine a big city. Close your eyes and just imagine a big city. Now, as you're thinking about that big city, think about a city that's cold, that's maybe covered in snow and ice, maybe sometime in January or February, just that freezing cold big city. Do you have something in your mind? Okay, now open your eyes. Now, what city were you guys imagining? Somebody shout it out. What was that? Oh my God. Well, good. You guys are so into participation that I hear so many cities. That's great. There really is so many, right? But let's consider New York City for a moment. New York City. Just take that all in for a moment. Wow. Millions of people in that picture that all are alive because of you. Don't ever underestimate yourself. I don't ever want to hear any of you say, ever again, I'm just a farmer. Because people are nothing without you. The clothes on their back, the shirts that they're wearing, the drinks in their cup, the food on their plate, that's all you. And farmers are 1% of the population, so the power that you have and the amount of hard work you do and just how far it goes, wow, it's really something to be celebrated. So why is it important to advocate? This is probably one of the most important slides in today's presentation is the why. Considering all of these things, right? Politics, improving perception, which improves policy. Everybody votes. We've got different things up here like Buy American, the importance of sourcing local USA grown whenever possible. The farm economy, the markets, the environment, everything that we have to deal with every single day. What happens when the activist voices become so loud that our tools and our toolbox are taken away? We've got some threats now with some people coming into leadership with the government that are going to try to take away your GMOs or your different chemicals, whatever that is, that you need to do your jobs. So this is absolutely imperative. Got a picture up there of Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio, a couple of Hollywood celebrities. Anybody know why they're up there? Well, because we're all experts in acting, duh. No, it's because Hollywood celebrities are trying to say what we do on our farms, and they're not usually getting it right. Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio out of LA were a big voice in Prop 12 passing in California. Now, Prop 12 was the proposition that came through that made it where the entire pork industry had to change their housing requirements. So they had requirements for the pork industry. Guess what? It costed the pork industry $18 billion. The power of influence, what happens when celebrities and people that are not qualified to talk about it impact our industry. Lastly, I've got a little picture on there that says, is all wheat sprayed with glyphosate? Oh my goodness, this myth. On social media, you may have seen this, the myth saying it's not the gluten, it's the glyphosate. Now, I'd like to ask you all, as a group of wheat growers, how many of you use glyphosate on wheat? 1 hand? 2? 1.5? 2? And so the idea that people believe that we're just out there spraying all kinds of wheat and that we're just spraying and drenching our fields just before harvest, that is a myth that will not die. But the good news is that we can help change that. We're going to talk about that here in a moment. So considering what people believe and what they vote for, there's always different pieces of legislation coming through, right? Different laws. So here's just one example. This was in Colorado. Vote no on 309, stop the ban. Okay, now this was a big problem in a proposed slaughterhouse ban in Denver that could have cost the industry $861 million and threatened 2,700 jobs. Wow. This happens in every state. This happens nationally all the time. Fortunately, this did not pass, which is amazing. We were able to save these jobs and continue moving forward with agriculture and the meat industry in Colorado. But think about what it is in your state. Who do you need to contact with or connect with? What sort of tools can you use to make sure that this never happens again? So going along with that, the power of influence and celebrities, remember the Got Milk campaign? How iconic was Got Milk? Do you think if every single person up here was in our corner helping the farmers tell their story, that bad legislation might not ever happen again? Look, Got Milk was so amazing in the 90s. Do you remember all of these years? There was no doubt in your mind that milk was a nutritional powerhouse. But now there's so many other celebrities going different routes of veganism. And it's usually a matter of follow the money. You know, PETA's not broke. Some HSUS, some of these animal rights activist groups that are intricate in trying to get celebrities to change their mind, go vegan, save the planet. Right? So, but in the 90s, look, we had Taylor Swift. We want to talk about influence. It was reported this year that because of Taylor Swift's involvement with the Super Bowl, it increased profits by $600 million. $600 million was Taylor Swift's impact on the Super Bowl. Isn't that something? So Britney Spears, you know, the pastor friends, I don't think that was anybody telling the story of milk. We can do this again, and we're going to talk about that here in a moment. Now, the who. I told you a little bit earlier about my background, going from rodeo to rodeo, and as I became a farmer and was learning more about farmers directly from you, I thought, why is there so much misinformation out there? And when you dig in on a matter of follow the money, kind of like the vegan movement we were just discussing, here, the anti-GMO movement is very similar, spending billions of dollars each year through different organizations to lead with fear and misinformation against conventionally grown and or GMO foods. So, the Non-GMO Project, the Organic Consumers Association, the Sierra Club, the Environmental Working Group is out there putting out these reviews every year that these foods have dangerous levels of pesticides or organic, all of this sort of thing. But what's interesting is that organic farming can sometimes use pesticides too, just naturally derived pesticides. So the misinformation, if you actually dig in on the science of pesticide use, the dose makes the poison, you would need to eat about 900 or 1,000 servings in a single sitting in order for those, the highest possible pesticide residues to negatively impact human health. So there's lots of money to be made. There's lots of fear happening out there with this sort of thing. Sustainability is also a very hot topic, right? Sustainability is something that we're always hearing about. And do we need to give up cattle for the climate? Well, science would say no. And also, when it comes to sustainability, they say, well, we need to give up meat. It's all about meat, give up meat, go vegan. But it is way more than just meat. Look at these hundreds, if not thousands of byproducts that we get from the almighty cattle. I mean, they're pretty incredible. The ultimate upcyclers. Everything we use leather, textiles, lotion, soaps, musical instrument strings, life-saving pharmaceuticals, sporting goods, all sorts of good things, all come from cattle. They say that we use everything but the moo, but I would argue we use the moo for ringtones. So the conclusion is that there's really no such thing as vegan, and it's up to anybody. Anybody can eat whatever they like, but let's not try to pretend like it's as bad as the media likes to portray. Here are the actual statistics. This is directly from the US EPA. Because it wouldn't be a presentation if you didn't have a chart or a graph in there somewhere at some point, right? So here's this little pie chart direct from the US EPA. Agriculture accounts for 10% of US greenhouse gas emissions. Or as y'all would say, 10%. 10%. Now, 4% of that comes from livestock, and just 2% comes from cattle. 2%! And you've got all of these amazing byproducts. I mean, wow. When we're thinking about today's topic of ag appreciation, thank you. Because you're not just providing food on someone's plate. You're providing everything for somebody to live, survive, thrive, way beyond food. Isn't that something? So sharing this story and remembering and empowering yourselves, your neighbors, your friends, and people in our industry to share that it's just absolutely amazing. Now, another reason why, let's talk about food brands for a moment, okay? Burger King put out a crazy commercial a couple of years ago talking about methane in cattle, okay? Now brace yourselves. I'm about to play the video. Your blood pressure might rise a little bit here, but we're gonna go ahead and play this Burger King commercial.
When there's fire, nothing's better. Well, it ain't no matter, release methane every time they do. And now methane from the ring goes through the atmosphere and pollutes our planet once again. Yes, that methane of the past is a greenhouse gas that attracts the sun and change our climate too. Gee, is it hot in here, or is it just me? So to change our emissions, burning well emissions, testing diets, and reduce that bias. That's a start. And when I question that is helping out suggesting adding plenty grass so they can play their part. Reducing methane, and the scientists have proven that it works. Reducing methane, we can reduce emissions by more than a third.
It's not telling, Clark. Must be me.
Reducing methane, and the formula is free at open source. So join in reducing methane. Got the Galleons singing for a better world. Got the Galleons singing for a better world.
Oh yeah, what did you guys think of that? Pretty insane, right? That was a real commercial that came out primarily on social media. And when that ad came out, I was like, I wanted to throw my phone against the room. I was like, I throw my phone against the wall. I said, is this April Fool's Day? Like, what on earth is this craziness? Yeah, Burger King put out that as an actual commercial. And look, reducing methane and improving sustainability and caring about all of that is a very noble goal and a very great cause. However, farmers and ranchers are already doing an amazing job at that. So guess what happened, okay? That Burger King ad went pretty viral and had about 5 million views on Twitter alone overnight. But guess what else went viral? Hashtag boycott Burger King. So they put out this ad and people were mad and calling Burger King out. So here are just a few examples of that. Now, Feeding lemongrass to cattle could reduce methane emissions by up to 1/3, according to one study that Burger King did in Mexico. They were trying to do a second study in the US and the EU, but the results were inconclusive and could not be replicated and were not yet published. So Burger King really jumped the gun. Some other people that put Burger King on blast are right up here from UC Davis, like Dr. Frank Pittler, you may have heard of him, Dr. Allison, Dr. Sarah Place, some of the big names in the cattle industry that work on research for this very topic, calling out Burger King. Farmers, a lot of other people were saying, hey, this isn't okay. I was doing some ads, and here's the other thing about that. Okay, we want to reduce emissions, so where do we source lemongrass? Do we have any lemongrass growers in the house? Didn't think so. Are we supposed to ship it from Thailand? Is that a better part of the global emission solution? I'm not sure, but I'll let you answer that. So all of these things going on, and people were not happy. So I was doing some posts about Burger King that were going pretty viral, and then just thought about it one day, and I wonder if Burger King would be willing to have a conversation. So one day I just Googled, who is the Global Chief Marketing Officer of Burger King? And just sent him a tweet explaining why we found the ad so offensive. Little did I know that Burger King would actually reach out and have a call with me, to the point where I invited them out to my farm, and they showed up. Unreal. So the Global Chief Marketing Officer of Burger King with his team, video crew, they come out and they record and produce a new commercial that was filmed on my farm. Unbelievable. I put together a 2-day tour, got Iowa State involved and Iowa Farm Bureau, took them to a methane digester and feedlot and all these farmers and experts, and I put together a whole 2-day team to really drive home the point of what farmers and ranchers do to improve sustainability, reduce methane, and all sorts of good stuff. They did a new commercial. Check out the outcome. Oh, and here, I'll give you a little intro. This is the street that I used to live on, where I used to farm in Iowa. As we're watching the commercial, the guy with the Brazilian accent, that's Fernando. He is the Global Chief Marketing Officer of Burger King, just so you kind of understand who you're watching. But take a look. What we do to protect the environment, sustainability, and all that thing, and we all kind of have that same goal to reduce methane and protect the environment and like move forward with science and technology. And so I just really want this to be an interactive. Coming together and having conversations is important.
You can't dismiss somebody's question or concern. They're all valid. So if there's consumer sentiment, you can't say, oh, we got it wrong, and you ignore it. It shapes the way farming is done.
So what do you hope to kind of gain out of these couple of days?
You hope it will for us to come here and learn more in terms of technology, sustainability, and then all about learning and seeing what we do better.
There are some people out there that are like, oh, I don't want to advocate for agriculture, I don't want to do with that. But you need to, because if we don't talk about it, we will. We want people to know how much we care about the environment. There's so many people at cities where we're just like, oh, farmers. We just feel really underappreciated, you know.
All built around sustainability. Obviously, we have to have a profit, but it's more than it is. So we can keep farming next year. So we can keep farming next decade.
There's a lot of different ways of being able to approach each atmosphere waste and environmental problem.
Right. Yeah, nothing is really wasted. I think farmers are like the ultimate recyclers, I guess. And nobody can tell that we're all now like a collaboration. Better, right? Hats off to Burger King for actually taking the time to listen and learn and change their stance on agriculture. So the reason we share this is you could be next. Don't ever underestimate the power of your own voice. Something as simple as a tweet to the right person can have an impact. Not only did Burger King retract that original ad, but they started launching more pro-farmer campaigns all around the world. So during COVID in France, Burger King, when all the restaurants were shut down, Burger King was buying up all the potatoes from local potato growers and giving them away for free through the Burger King drive-thrus. And they were doing so much more to advocate for us and support us instead of being against us. So, communication tips. Every single one of you has this incredible power within you. You just have to do it, and you just have to start. So now we're transitioning over into the how. How do you do it? We talked about why, now how. Let's give you some tangible takeaway items to really have an impact. So, if you do decide you want to do some sort of social media advocacy, rule number one is to have empathy and put yourself in their shoes. Over 90% of people are in the movable middle. Hey, remember, I was the anti-GMO activist from Los Angeles, okay? Now look at me. There are millions of other people out there that are dying to hear your stories, to learn and advocate for you, so never forget that. Have empathy. Treat everybody as if you would treat your own best friend. Number two, remember to have that memorable brand name. So if you do say, you know what, I'm going to start a podcast or do social media, some type of Facebook page or Instagram, have something that people can remember. So it's not like, oh, I can't remember how to spell their last name. I think there's a weird underscore in there. Always use a brand name that people can remember. And there's no wrong way to do it. Whether you can dedicate only 10 minutes to doing one post once in a while, it really can add up. You can have something go viral that can change your life or the world. Be yourself. There's no better story to tell than where our food comes from, directly from you. Sharing the good, the bad, the ugly that happens on the farm every single day can have a huge impact. Just find and share your voice, your personality with that kindness and that empathy, to share your expertise. People don't know what they don't know. It's not that people are stupid or a lost cause. They've probably just never been to a farm. Funny story, a couple weeks ago I was in downtown Philadelphia. All these skyscrapers, millions of people, and I'm walking downtown and I do a double take. There's a Holstein cow in the middle of downtown Philadelphia. And I was like, what on earth is this? Okay, of course the farm babe has to make her way over. It was the grand opening of a new ice cream store. And they wanted to bring a cow in so they could showcase where dairy and milk comes from. And I was like, that is incredible. The local dairy princess was there. They had some dairy boards and some people there to promote dairy and cows for this ice cream grand opening. Great, right? Agricultural advocacy. And so I said to the owners, I was like, thank you for doing this. That's amazing. What sort of questions have people been asking, or what sort of comments have they had? And they said, well, one person was walking by and said, that's a really big Great Dane. I mean, unreal. The number of people that have never seen a cow. And they could have said it really seriously because they've probably never been to a farm. So we have the ability and the power through social media and beyond to help people learn. So share that. You are the expert. Hot topics always go over really well. Memes, humor, anything that can really capture people's audience's attention. TikTok is such a popular platform now, reaching hundreds of millions of people. Definitely lean into these types of platforms that can help you. So considering influence, we were talking earlier about celebrities. Who would you say is one of the world's most influential people? Anybody have a guess? Shout out a name. Who do you think is very influential? How about Elon Musk? Elon Musk, just as one example, has 198 million followers on X, formerly known as Twitter. I'm going to call it Twitter for argument's sake. Whether you want to call it X or Twitter, doesn't matter. But we all know the name Elon Musk all around the world is probably one of the most well-known names in the world. However, I'd like to put something into perspective for you. As it stands, we have 1.9 million farms and ranches across the U.S., okay? 1.9 million. For argument's sake, let's just say that about 1/3 of them do social media. Would you say that that's a realistic number? 1/3, a very conservative numbers, we hope to grow that, of farmers on social media. Now what if each one of them gets 1,000 followers? Okay, now all of a sudden this community of farmers coming together reaches 633 million followers. And that's just the number of followers. Considering some of the other farmers out there that are on social media are absolutely crushing it in terms of education and advocacy. Here are just a few examples. I have Derek Josie up there, TDF Honest Farming. He's a dairy farmer from Oregon who reached 260 million people on Facebook alone last year. Clarkson's Farm, does anybody watch that TV show on Amazon Prime? If you are not yet watching Clarkson's Farm, it is amazing. I highly recommend it. Very much a similar story to a man that went from being a city guy to saying, you know what, I'm just gonna be a farmer. One day he grew up, or one day he woke up and said, I'm gonna start a farm. And it films the whole journey of the challenges of like, well, I'm just gonna grow wheat today. And then he goes out and buys a tractor that's too big, and they realize he can't because the conditions aren't right. He's like, I can't just do this today. It's hilarious. So definitely check out Clarkson's Farm, probably one of the world's most famous farming celebrities on TV. Zach Johnson, Millennial Farmer, is probably the most followed farmer on YouTube with millions of followers there. Have you probably heard of the Peterson Farm Brothers, also wheat growers from Kansas? Reaching millions of people with their famous music video parodies. So if you haven't watched the Peterson Farm Brothers videos on YouTube yet, they are wonderful. You've got some women in ag doing like Tara Vanderdusen and Natalie Kavarik making ag cool again. And then maybe somebody like a Ballerina Farms who has 10 million followers on Instagram alone. So collectively, collaboratively, every single one of your voices matters. You don't have to have millions of followers to have an impact. So how do you build a following though? Maybe you say, I want to do that. How do you grow it? So rule number one is collaborate. People at the top collaborate, people at the bottom compete. You may have heard that expression before. But networking and collaborating, building those relationships, creating content together, building off of each other's followers, and the next thing you know, your followers are following each other and you're growing with that. Be yourself. Authenticity really matters, and people really want to hear your story and connect to more farmers. So share. Share the content of people that inspire you, and in turn, they will share your content, and you will be building on each other's following there as well. So you can also vary content. Whether you want to do videos, articles, stories, posts, always just tag and hashtag people and use those stories as moments to connect with others. It is social media. You build the following, you build the network and the connection. And lastly, different humor and infographics can also have a huge impact. So a little bit about that when it comes to infographics. Talking about the tough topics, pesticides is such a hot topic. We were discussing earlier about how, no, we're not out there just drenching our fields in wheat, but why do we have to use chemistry sometimes? And the reality is that people won't buy crops that look like the picture on the right. The picture on the left talks about there's tens of thousands of species of insects and weeds and disease that we have to combat. As humans, we are living. Living creatures need chemistry to survive, whether that's bug spray or sunscreen, medicine, food, nutrients. Plants need that too. So it's up to us to explain what we do and why. And of course, the dose makes the poison. When Roundup aka glyphosate, can get a bad rep in the media, we all know as growers that it's one of the most benign chemicals that we have access to, with an LD50 value of 5,600 milligrams per kilogram. Now at the top here you have water, probably the world's most non-toxic substance, also known as dihydrogen monoxide, with an LD50 value of 90,000, practically non-toxic. As you keep going, you've got your sugar, glyphosate, table salt, caffeine, nicotine, all the way down to botulin. Now, does anybody know what botulin is used for? Botulin is used in Botox. It is the world's most toxic substance. So as people are saying, I don't like chemicals in my food, they're injecting the world's most toxic substance directly in their face and not batting an eye. Literally. I've had Botox before in school. But it all goes to show you, put this into perspective of what is a chemical and why does it matter. You have 2 Tylenol, not the whole bottle. Drink a beer, not the whole keg. Similar situation. Now, explaining a little bit more about what we do is something that I'll dive into here a little bit as glyphosate. So first up, memes, humor, great way to share a story on social media. Exhibit A. Growing your own tomatoes really is the best way to devote 3 months of your life to saving $2.17. But on the right here is a picture, you may recognize this as a sprayer. Now, when I first started my advocacy 10 years ago, I was really sick and tired of people talking about, you guys are just spraying all that Roundup on your GMOs. And I said, let's debunk this. Just did a little post that said, I broke it down and I said, okay, on our cornfields, we're spraying about 22 ounces per acre. It's less than 2 beer cans on an area of land the size of a football field. And we spray 1 day a year, maybe 2, in the beginning of the growing season. Putting that into a tangible thought that people can understand and relate to. Wow, I don't know how many of you guys can picture only 2 beers at a football game. I know I can't. But it's very minimal, so putting that into perspective, I only had 100 followers. That post went viral, reached 18 million people, and helped launch my career. So consider things like this, that it can be something you're doing on the farm that we could take for granted, doing every day, that can have a huge impact on your farm and on the world. Search the best farming hashtags. Once you get going, you can search hashtag facts.fear for facts about GMOs, hashtag farm talk for TikTok, and so on. But I did save my favorite hashtag for last, which is the hashtag selfie, also known as the farmer selfie. So how many of you are currently on Twitter? Twitter, all right. If you are on Twitter, my handle is @thefarmbabe, so you can like it and retweet it. And if you're not on Twitter, you should join, also known as X. I guess it would be x.com if you want to join. But I have this whole tradition that I take a crowd selfie with every one of my talks. So here we go. If you're not on Twitter, you're about to be. All right, here we go. So, like I said, later on, you can jump on X, aka Twitter. And I'm going to post this little picture here. And greetings from Amarillo. Speaking this afternoon for the Texas Wheat Farmer Appreciation Luncheon at the Amarillo Farm Show, a selfie with the crowd. Thank you for growing our wheat and keeping us all fed. Post so you guys can like it, retweet it, share it, all that good stuff. So as we continue to build on the positive, beautiful messages of what you guys do every day, multiple generations of family farms, growing, improving, doing more with less, every single one of you has a beautiful story to tell on what I like to call Hope Ag. Hope Ag. There's a number of ways to tell your story, whether you're on social media, or you choose to do agritourism, or field trips, or ag in the classroom, education programs, volunteer opportunities, invite politicians out on your farm. There's a million ways to connect with others who have never been more eager and more important to learn from you. Hope Ag can stand for hormones, organics, pesticides, environment, antibiotics, GMOs, and that is the Hope Ag, because together we can help demystify and put the human and the family farm behind that story. So it really boils down to trust. You know, trust. Never ever, under any circumstance, underestimate the power of your own voice, that you are not just a farmer, you are somebody that is responsible for keeping the entire world alive. You are trusted too. I know it may come as a shock, not everybody trusts the government. And they don't always trust the big corporations, but they do trust you as a family farm legacy. So you can help people laugh, cry, feel something, that you're a person just like them, and a parent, somebody's mother, somebody's brother, somebody's daughter. You can help people connect through those common ground and shared values. We eat what we grow, family farms, and sharing that transparency. And the more trust you build, and the stronger life. 15 minutes with a farmer could save you 50% or more on your grocery bill. In conclusion, guys, there's a lot of things that we can't control. You know, we can't control market price or the weather. We can't always control our relatives. But there is one thing that we can control. We can control the perception. So to those of you who work in acres, not ours, we thank you. Thank you guys very much.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, Michelle Miller, the Farm Babe. And that just about wraps up the Amarillo Ag Appreciation Luncheon. We want to thank our great sponsors, and if you're a representative of one of these groups, we need you up here on the stage for a picture after we finish. We want to thank Ag Texas Farm Credit Services, Amarillo Chamber of Commerce, Amarillo National Bank, Atlas Energy, Atterbury Crane, BNSF Railway, Broken Arrow Crop Insurance, Capital Farm Credit, Crop and Rain Insurance, High Plains Water District, First United Bank, Plains Land Bank, Prosperity Bank, Texas Cattle Feeders Association, Texas Farm Bureau Radio Network, Texas A&M AgriLife Research and Extension, Texan Sir Ronnie Jackson, West Texas A&M University College of Agriculture and Natural Sciences, and Xcel Energy. Thank you to all of our great sponsors for making the Texas Wheat Symposium and the Amarillo Ag Appreciation Luncheon a great success once again. And if you're a member of any of these sponsors, please, one member of each group up here on the stage, please, for a quick group photo. And that wraps up the Ag Appreciation Luncheon. Thank you for your support of the second most important industry in the world next to the ministry, the American farmer. God bless you. Enjoy the farm show. Have a great day. Good day. God bless.